entangle us. And this is the thing with sin, and the things that we do wrong. We might think they're inconsequential to us and of no importance, but actually they can easily just entangle us. I was praying through this week. The armour of God, Ephesians 6, talks about the armour of God. And it's easy, sometimes people pray that as a formula, but actually it's a very practical thing. And in the armour of God, one of the areas is the belt of truth. The belt is only small, and it's not that significant as you look at a shield and a breastplate and a sword. But the belt of truth in our armour. You know, if we're running this race and we lose the belt of truth, we start telling some lies, we start living in areas with a lack of integrity, what happens is our trousers fall down. Now, I'll give you an example of a guy I know. He went on a prison visit, and he's a bigger guy than me, and he went through the security thing that you go through to visit prisons, and he got his big belt on with a big belt buckle in. They said, "Sorry sir, that's made of metal, you have to take it off and put it in the dish." So he took it off. They said, "Right, you've got to stand there and be searched," and done with a woo thing. So he stood there like that, trousers down around the ankles, in the middle of a prison, full of men convicted for things. But even they found it funny that there's this 22-stone man with his trousers around his ankles. And that's what happens when you lose your belt. That's what happens when we're losing the truth. So if we're running this race and we lose the belt of truth, the things that should protect us and cover our modesty are the very things that are entangling us and tripping us up. We need to make sure we run with all the provision that God has for us. Anyway, I'm digressing. I want to encourage us. There's lots of things we can pick out of Hebrews 12. There's lots of expressions. But you know, when we're in that arena, surrounded, when we throw off all that easily entangles us, when we're so focused on the purpose and the contest that we're running in, when we look for those signposts marking out the way we should go, it gets difficult. I was saying earlier about some of the difficulty of what we want to do. But my first thing, and if you forget everything else, just remember this. When the race gets hard and your feet gets blistered, there's 3 words in Hebrews that I just want to stick in your mind. And it's this. That let us throw off everything that hinders us and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run. Let us run. And let that be the cry of our hearts today. Let us run with perseverance. Let us run. So when things aren't going well and life is getting tough in our finances, do you know what? Let us run. When things are getting lonely and we feel like we're the only ones banging their head against that brick wall, do you know what? Let us run. When things are getting as if they're pulling us back and weighing us down, let us run. When we feel lost and we don't know where we're going in life, God's call for us, let us run. Let us keep running. When we feel tired or naked or distressed, let us run. When we're hurting and in pain from some of the things that have happened to us in life, let us run. Let's keep going. Let's run the race that God has called us to run today. It's so easy for those burdens to weigh us down. It's so easy for those burdens to pull us back. The Authorized Version uses the expression easily beset us. Again, the literal Greek translation means that which would thwart a runner, that which would stand in the way. And I think you've seen these Charlies in the Olympics or in other events, even in the boat race this year, somebody swam into the way of the boats to thwart the run, to thwart the activity. There are people who live like that. And yet, let us not be sidetracked by those that would try and thwart the runners. There's people in our lives, there's people who even come into churches that will try and thwart the runners, try and be negative. Oh, you don't want to do that, you don't want to train. I'm on the journey with you, and I don't train, I don't do anything that would help you run quicker. Just get on with it. There's people who would thwart the plans and purposes of God in your life. We have an enemy of the souls, we mentioned earlier, whose sole objective is to thwart you, to trip you up, to stop you finishing the race, to stop you winning the prize that God has given his life for you for. That's what the enemy does. And thwart is a great word. He just wants to stop it. And running with patience, the Greek word is hupomene, which is a great word. It means patience, endurance. And a word that I love is consistency. You know, we can be great sprinters, like Alan on the beach. You know, we can see a turn of speed there. But actually, in the long race of life, we can be great sprinters, but we're not going to win anything. Because we've got to dig in sometimes. We've got to have that patience and that endurance, and that was what I was saying about Broadway. Sometimes we've got to realise it's a longer race than we think. And we've got to dig in there. In fact, let me just read, if I can get it on here. This will be where it crashes. Okay. Now here it is, Hebrews 12, and it's in the Message version. I love it. It says, do you see what this means? All the pioneers who blazed the way, all these veterans cheering us on, it means we better get on with it. Strip down, start running, and never quit. If you want to paraphrase this morning's message, it's strip down of the things that would inhibit you, start running, and never quit. No extra spiritual fat, no parasitic sins. Keep your eyes on Jesus, who both began and finished this race we're in. Study how he did it, because he never lost sight of where he was headed, that exhilarating finish in and with God. He could put up with anything along the way, the cross, the shame, or whatever. And now he's there in the place of honour right alongside God. When you find yourselves flagging in your faith, go over that story again, item by item, that long litany of hostility he ploughed through, that will shoot adrenaline into your souls. I think that is a great way of putting it. So let me encourage you this morning. Let us run. You know, as a church, there are so many things that will put us off. I talked a bit last week, just a minute, about distraction. There's so much that will try and clamour for our attention, but let us run. Let us keep running. Let's not weary ourselves with doing good, the Bible says. Let's keep running. You know, I mentioned George earlier, and there's others. You know, George has gone through some things in his life that some people would never survive under. And you know, if you're on the race and you're struggling, and this is why I love people like George in the church, because if you listen ever so carefully, you can hear that he's still running. You can hear his footsteps. Even when there were some big hurdles and obstacles, some heartbreakers in the way, do you know what? He keeps running. He keeps running. And you know, I know today he's going to keep running. Even though his legs aren't what they used to be physically, he's still running. Pastor David and Pastor Judith, pastored here 27 years. Great years. But I bet there was some heartache. I bet there was some pain and some hurt. But you know what? They're in the house today and they're still running. You know, and I honour those of a different generation. I honour Amon and Tom as well. We're going through some stuff. Broadway, as you say, you want to stop sometimes. But hey, we keep running. We keep running. There's other people who could testify this morning about things that have gone wrong, things that have not gone unexpected, things that have hurt us. And we keep running. And we've got a way, running away, that means business. Running away that will win the prize. And with Broadway and with summer, and with everything coming on, I say my year anniversary is coming up over the summer. And I'll be honest with you, I've had a year, and we've done some things, we've changed some things, enjoyed it, been with you, fantastic. But I see the race not in a year sprint, but in a 25-year marathon. And, you know, if we're going to win the prize that God has for us, it's time to get a little bit serious. It's time to make some changes to our routines that would help us run in ways that will win the prize. And you know I love you. And I've proven that, and hopefully I'll keep proving it and keep being there for people. But we need to sort of wake up. We've said that we've got 3 C's, which is a great celebration. And we do. I love being in the Sunday mornings. They're going great. They're going to get better. And they'll keep getting better. We get more and more people involved, using the gift. It can only get better. Thank God for how they are. because they're a lot better than a lot of other people's. But hey, we can still strive to get better. But the other two C's of community and cohesion, about sticking together, we're not there on those yet. We're not there. And conversations I'm having with people on cohesion, and maybe they don't use the word cohesion, but they say, do you know what, I don't quite feel as if I'm sticking. I don't feel as if I found my place. I don't feel as if I'm there yet. They come every Sunday maybe, but they don't feel. That's what we've all got to work on. And community, this thing of community. People can come on Sunday and have a great life, but if we're not there from Monday to the next Saturday, if we're not there building each other, cheering each other on, then we're running alone. That's not how God intended. So we need to intentionally look at those things and say, what is it that will bring us together as a community? What is it that will bring us together with cohesion? That when times get tough, we stick together. And we need not just to look at them, but actually make intentional decisions that, hey, we're in it to win the prize. You know, I don't know about, I'm going to sound off now, but I watched the London Marathon, an athletic event known through the world. And you've got the best runners in the whole world ready at the start. The gun goes off and they're away, they're pacing themselves. But then further down the field, you've got people dressed as chickens. People in diving suits dressed as penguins. Do you know what? I'm not a betting man, but I could bet pretty confidently that they ain't going to win. The man dressed as a giant chicken is not going to win the London Marathon. The guy in the diving suit who takes 11 days to complete the marathon is not going to win. Why? Because their purpose is not to win the race. And you see, as a competitor, you know, if we turn up for any event and then we say, well, one team doesn't want to win, who are you going to bet on? The team that wants to win, aren't you? And yet in church, our prize is incredible. Our challenge is life-changing. But do we actually approach it as if we can actually win the race? Do we actually think we're on the winning side? Or are we just in it for the ride? Are we just in it for the journey? You know, because the London Marathon, if you walk it, it'd be great, because you can see lots of sights. Oh, there's the House of the Parliament, there's Big Ben. Oh, I'm on the Bell now, and there's Buckingham Palace. But you're not going to win anything. You're not actually in the race for what it was designed for. And I think with those three words for race, our life journey, going the distance, but also a contest. The biggest lie the devil can tell you is, as long as you're in the race, that's all that counts. An old English saying, I don't know where it's in the world, it's not the winning that counts, it's the taking part. I tell you as a parent, that's rubbish. I never want my kids to take part, I want them to win. Sorry more. But isn't it? If my boy's not going to win, what's the point of entering in the race? British Olympic, it gives them experience. Experience of what? We need to put them in situations and scenarios that are surrounded by winners, so they'll get a winning culture and say, do you know what? I can win this race. And we need to get that culture around us and realise that this isn't a contest that we can lose. This is a contest that we have to win. If we're going to see our families and our friends and Peter who won for Jesus, we've got to realise this is a contest we've got to win. And we've got to take it seriously. You know, my girl Bethany, I miss her. I love her so much. And she did so well last week at the funeral. And just growing up with her and being a dad, you know, good job, Matt, you can see that. Something fell on the floor, but it wasn't that valuable, honestly. Okay. She was in a race once, and she got this, race thing, and the course was set out. And literally, I was there as the proud dad and cheering her on. And the race started, and she's not the quickest starter, so she makes up ground, and she catches them all, and then she takes the lead. And what happened was, everyone was gathered around a line. And so she got to this line, and she thought she'd won, she slowed down, and everyone just ran past her. And then I saw a bloke with a stopwatch at the other end of the field, and that was the finishing line. And she didn't know. So she stopped, and everyone ran past, and she was heartbroken. And I was like, and I was cross inside, I've got to be honest. Like, why did everybody stay around the finish that line? My brother did that playing golf, you know. He stood in the way of the flag, and there was another flag on the green. And he watched me put into the other hole, and then he said, oh, that's a foul, because the flag's here. He's a bigger cheat than I am, I'll tell you. All our golf games are shrouded in controversy. But, you know, my daughter, she's like, oh, Dad, I should have won that. And I'm like, in my heart, I'm thinking, yes, you should have done, and silly people doing this. But I put my arm around her and say, well, there's next year. Da, 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 da. I don't know who's more upset, me or her, if I'm honest. But we talked about it and that was the end of it. A year goes by and it's the sports day again. And I had not forgotten. So it comes to the race and she's there. And I sat her down and I said, Bethany,